9-2.
And good Sunday evening. My name is Howie Silbiger. Welcome to the Howie Silbiger Show, right here on the True Talk Radio Network. So happy to be with you. So happy that you're here with me, and I'm glad that we're doing the show together. Really happy that you decided to spend your Sunday evening with me and with Sheldon. Sheldon will be here in just a couple of seconds. I want to remind you that we are raising money for independent radio in Montreal. We see that corporations have destroyed radio in Montreal. We see that corporations have fired really decent radio staff. And I think it's time for radio professionals, people who are passionate about radio, to take back the medium. I think it's time for people who are passionate about radio to step forward and say, we're going to create radio that audiences want to listen to. We're going to create radio that we feel is good radio, that as professionals we feel we are producing good radio. And so we've decided here at TrueTalkRadio.com that we were going to launch a radio station. We were going to take it the next step, and we were going to offer radio professionals the right, the opportunity to ply their trade without corporate oversight. Doesn't mean there won't be standards. Of course, there'll be standards. Doesn't mean that we won't be following the regulations of whatever governing body there is. Of course, we will. But it does mean that corporate overlords aren't going to tell us that you can't be on the air because we're cutting our budgets and we have to cut $1 million off our third quarter. What it does mean is that corporate overlords aren't going to come and say, "Hey, listen, we need someone who's right wing, someone who's left wing. So you're going to pretend to be right wing and you're going to pretend to be left wing, and you're going to argue the points on that point because that's the way it is." It's not going to happen like that. What we're planning on starting is a radio station run by radio professionals, people who love the business, and hosted by radio professionals, people who love the business. And if we love what we're doing, and the people who are on the air love what we're doing, you're going to love listening to what we're doing and watching us on YouTube and wherever else that we end up broadcasting. So I invite you to support independent radio in Montreal. The GoFundMe page is on the Howie Silbiger Show page on Facebook. I'm going to put it up on True Talk Radio. For some reason, it didn't go up. I wanted to put it up, and it didn't go up. I'm going to put it up on the front page of True Talk Radio, and of course, if you can't find it for whatever reason, I mean, it's right there. But if you can't find it for whatever reason, you could always send me an email, Howie@TrueTalkRadio.com, and I'll be more than happy to forward you the link to our GoFundMe page. So please be generous, be helpful, and if you don't want to donate money, that's fine. If you are a talented radio professional who is out of work or who is looking to do something interesting in radio, and you don't want to donate money, but you want to bring your time and your talent and your expertise to this radio station, we'll be more than happy to talk to you too. If you don't want to do the GoFundMe thing, you could always call 1-877-669-1292, extension 2. If you're a professional, if you want to help out in some other way, give us a call, 1-877-669-1292, extension 2. Leave me a message, and I promise you I'll get back to you. So it's been quite a week. It's been a really strange week for me, at least. It's always a strange week for me, but this week has been a little stranger than other weeks. At the beginning of the week, the media flipped out over Ted Cruz going to Cancun, Mexico, overnight to drop his daughters off after Texas froze over. I put up a propaganda lesson on my Facebook page, and I pointed out that the media is focusing on Ted Cruz and his trip, not because he's Ted Cruz and it's his trip. Well, maybe because of that. Maybe that's part of it. Ted Cruz is, of course, one of the most hated politicians in the United States. Why is he hated? Because he supported Donald Trump, and now any politician that supports Donald Trump is hated by the media. And the radical left hate Ted Cruz. He's an insurrectionist supporter, whatever the hell that means. So Ted Cruz, of course, he's the punching bag of the left, and they went after him. They went after him hard. But my piece that I posted really had little to do with Ted Cruz, even though if you read the comments, that's all they talk about is Ted Cruz, because a whole bunch of lefties took over and went and attacked my piece. But my piece had really very little to do with Ted Cruz. I used the example of Ted Cruz to prove my point that the media is a propaganda machine. And that was really the point. And I don't think anyone posting comments on the piece itself actually got the point of the piece. Nobody was actually reading it for the point. They were just trying to find something they could get me on because I'm a righty and they're a lefty and they have to get me. It's destroy, destroy, destroy. Attack, 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 and keep throwing things at you until they could find something they could get you on. Find the minutia of the story that you may have made a little mistake or that may not have been 100% clear, and attack that little minutia of the story until you could destroy the person and destroy his reputation because he doesn't agree with me politically. Give me a break. The point of the piece that I put up was nothing to do with Ted Cruz. It had nothing to do with, it had nothing to do with the story that was associated to it. The point I was making was that the media made a huge deal about Ted Cruz going to Cancun. Now, whatever he was correct going to Cancun or incorrect going to Cancun is totally irrelevant to what I'm about to say. Whether he let down the people of Texas, even though Ted Cruz isn't crawling up the hydro poles to fix the power. He's a senator. He has very little power to do anything in the state. But whatever. Optics were horrible for Cruz. I agree. But whether he was correct or incorrect in going to Cancun, whether he pre-planned a trip and planned it as a vacation or just planned to take his daughters, as he claimed, and run off to Cancun for a couple of hours, is irrelevant to the fact that the media is covering the story wall to wall. If CNN and the left-wing media is covering the story wall to wall simply to detract from the point that renewable energy failed. This is the point. Renewable energy failed. Windmills froze, solar panels got covered in snow, and everything stopped working. 25%, 22%, doesn't really matter what the percentage is. A percentage of the Texas electrical grid, which is not connected to the regular U.S. electrical grid. Texas is an independent country, well, an independent state. After the Alamo, when Texas joined the Confederation of States, the United States of America, Texas made it clear that they would be an independent state within the state of America. In Quebec, they would call it a distinct society. And what Texas did was they created their own electrical grid. So they have an electrical grid that's separate from the electrical grid of the rest of the United States. Now, Texas has always been beholden to the oil companies. We all know oil companies most of the oil in America comes from Texas. So they've been beholden to the oil companies. But a couple of years ago, there was a little bit of deregulation. And about 25, 26, the percentage is really irrelevant to the story. 26% of their grid was transferred over to windmills and like wind farms and solar farms. And those are the farms that failed. And losing that quarter of the power generated for the country, for the state. I keep calling Texas a country. They're not a country, they're a state. Losing that segment of the grid, of the power grid, when the windmills went down and the solar power plants went down, Texas had a problem. Because it was so cold, people were really generating much more electricity than they did previously. And because they generated so much electricity, Texas found themselves overloaded. Their grid was overloaded, and then there were the blackouts. So, because renewable energy failed, and fossil fuels actually saved whatever was left of the power grid, the media, who had been pushing, along with Joe Biden and the Democrats, have been pushing for the Green New Deal, converting most of the power grids across the United States into solar power and wind power grids, really didn't want this to be the shining example of renewable energy. And so they went searching for something they could cover that could detract people, that could distract people from the true nature of the story, which is that renewable energy failed here. You can't sell the Green New Deal if you have a living example of the failure of renewable energy. Now, don't get me wrong, and I know a lot of people are going to attack me and say, well, what are you talking about? Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying renewable energy is not a smart idea. I'm not saying that renewable energy should not be implemented wherever possible. But what I am saying is that the technology that was implemented in Texas, the technology of wind farms and solar farms that were instituted in Texas, failed. And what people should be doing now, and what politicians and what experts should be doing now, is studying the situation in Texas and figuring out why it failed, how it failed, and figuring out ways to ensure that it doesn't fail like that if it's implemented across the greater country. That's all I was saying. But people like to nitpick, and so if you read the comments, I stopped even responding to them because people were just nitpicking. Well, Ted Cruz's wife said, I don't care. That wasn't the point of the story. That wasn't the point of the post. I'm Howie Silbiger. This is the Howie Silbiger Show. Feel free to call in 1-877-669-1292. That's 1-877-669-1292. We'll get you on the air with us. Sheldon Eric Freed is here. He is my long-standing producer of the show and a good friend, and I'm happy that he's here. Hi, Shel.
Hi, how are you?
I am excellent. How are you, sir?
Not too bad. Have electricity in my house, so that was.
Well, that's good. You don't live in Texas, so it's
no,
good.
But you know what? I remember speaking to you earlier this afternoon when you called me, and I remember there was a situation whereby I don't remember the year, but the entire Northeast had a major power blackout. It was a major.
That must have been the late '80s, early '90s.
Yeah, and the thing was, I think most if not 90% of the entire East Coast was completely affected, with major new cities of New York and Boston and Philadelphia and everything. And Quebec was lucky because Quebec was on its own grid, but the grid held.
Right.
So so Montreal and all points within the entire province was spared this, but most of the major cities on the entire northeast quadrant of North America were completely in the black. I even think that Toronto might have been affected too, but I'm not 100% sure. But it shows how fragile these grids are, and especially if you have 2 or 3 major power grids that encompass most of the United States, and then you have Texas and whatever. Obviously, the weather in Texas, they do get cold weather, but not like this, not to this standpoint. It doesn't get cold like this. It's like cold like Montreal in Canada, and I was seeing the streets of Austin and the roads and everything, and look like our typical blizzards in the north, up in the Northeast.
Sheldon, we just got a face. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we just got a Facebook message saying that the listener saw Sheldon on TV last night on City Life show with Richard Desjardins.
Oh my God, that's going back. That's going back. I know I did a thing with City Life. I was actually on camera, and I think it took place in a park. If that person's alluding to this, referring to this, and they were actually asking me about 4 or 5 different questions, but it being 4 or 5 different segments. The situation with the pandemic, how have I adjusted, and how are people in the whole adjusted in terms of public transportation and safety distance and mask and all this stuff. So I was asked about 4 or 5 questions, and I, with a bunch of other people, were interviewed separately. And I think this took place in a park in St. Henry.
Oh, cool.
So that's the one, because I was on Matt TV before doing other things, but this was it happened about a couple of months ago.
So Sheldon, do you think, let's talk about Ted Cruz. Do you think Ted Cruz should be held responsible for going on? I know the optics are bad for him. I mean,
yeah, the optics are very bad, but that's what media does, is they take a situation regarding of what standpoint is, and they make the optics because it makes good ratings. But also we have to look at a bunch of other things, not only Ted Cruz or whatever. And no matter if you're right wing, left wing, let's figure all this thing out. And I'm not saying I'm not going to completely say that Ted Cruz was 100% wrong, but here's the scope. Here's the dirt that's being on Ted Cruz and any politicians that have traveled during this pandemic. Now, the thing was,
and he's not the only one. Let's be
no,
clear.
no, no,
He's
no.
not the
That's
only
what
one.
I'm going to
Yeah.
say, because here in Canada, there were many people, even some of our local politicians here in our broadcast area, they traveled. So it's not only Ted Cruz, and it's not only, so it was the province of Ontario, province of Quebec, Ted Cruz, and I'm sure he's not alone. I'm sure there was other people too, other governors that also decided, for whatever reason, they decided to go away. Okay, so yes, it's bad optics. There's no question about that at all. The media has spun it so. So the thing is, what people would see, and I would see some of the Facebook comments, and they would say, okay, our politicians, or the politicians at large, no matter where you're living, they're telling people not to travel. They're telling people to stay home because of the COVID. That's the message that we've gotten from provincial, our municipal governments, our federal governments. This was the message they were conveying to the people.
Right.
For the most part, most people did stay home. Yes, not 100%, obviously, but let's say between 60 to 70%. I'm playing it conservative. Of the amount of people that would usually travel, maybe March break, maybe Christmas and New Year's, they decided to stay home, including myself. I know you go to Florida sometimes too.
Yeah.
I was going to go away to the Caribbean again with my significant other. We decided to stay home because we said it's just too risky. And this was even before the government decided to really batten down the hatches. And now when people come back, they're now going to have to quarantine in a hotel for 3 days at their own expenses, which could be at least $2,000 more than what they budgeted for on the trip.
Right.
So they're telling people, this is the message. The politicians are telling people to stay home. For the most part, most of the people are obeying these health directives. Okay? But then we're seeing that the politicians who are in the public spotlight, this is another thing. If you and I were to travel, we'd be under the radar, because who would really know? Because we're not on the camera. Yes, we're on the radio, but we're not on the camera.
Right. Media is not following me around to see what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing is, when you're in the politician, or if you're a movie star, any kind of a public figure in the spotlight, in the television, where your face is very well known, and you travel somewhere, the media is going to follow you, because they're going to try to spin. They're going to say, well, how come Sheldon Fried and Howie Silbiger, how come they're traveling? How come Ted Cruz, how come the former finance minister of Ontario was traveling? How come one of the politicians in Quebec were traveling? They're telling us, they're citizens, to stay home, but why are they traveling? So this is why a lot of people are mad. Well, this is why a lot of people are saying, well, we're listening to the politicians, but they're a bunch of hypocrites, because they're, what's good for the goose is not good for the gander. So they're putting rules on us, and they're putting strict rules to the point that if people were to come back, they would have to go into these hotels by the federal government. They would have to spend up to $2,000, if not more, for extra money. Where people, when they first went away, especially the snowbirds that went away before the Christmas holidays, this was not in effect. Yes, there were still, the borders are now closed between Canada and the United States till March 21st.
And who knows how much longer after that.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's going to keep being extended. There was some good news on the local front, that now we have 600 cases, as opposing to Ontario's, our neighbors to the west, over 1,000 cases.
So I'm really
Ontario.
hoping that because the cases are down, we'll start seeing an easing up of the curfew at least.
Yeah, well, they were saying
and
that
reopening a little bit of society.
Yeah, if it's in the orange zone, apparently they say if you're in the orange zone, the curfew can go from 8 o'clock, which is presently in the Montreal area, which is still in the red zone, to 9:30 at night. Now, hopefully, yes, it would be nice for the curfew to be a little later, and also, eventually eliminated. But again, like I said, this is why there's such an outpouring. And, to me, it doesn't make a difference if you're right wing or left wing, center, whatever the case is. All I'm saying is, if you're going to make these rules to everybody, and I don't, even if he was a Democrat, Republican, I don't care. That, because he's a Republican, because he was for Trump. That makes no difference in the way I feel.
But that
Like,
makes a difference in the way a lot of people feel, Sheldon.
yeah, but
And
I, but I'm,
that clouds their judgment when they look at let's say the piece that I posted that I was talking about before. When they look at that piece, and I'm saying, look, the media is making a big deal out of this because they want to cover up the fact that renewable energy failed. The first knee jerk reaction for all these people is, all right, let's attack him because he's supporting Cruz. I
yeah, but
wasn't necessarily
that's
supporting
wrong.
Cruz.
Obviously, because it's your own independent judgment. It's not like Trump telling him to do this. It's not like Biden was telling him to do this. He did it. He did his own independent decision. Whether or not he was a Democrat senator or Republican senator means no difference. The fact is, to me, now what the other people posted, that's their viewpoints. And I can't change their viewpoints. But what I am saying is, the fact is that when you are in the public spotlight, you are held in a higher standard. Now, I'm not saying what the media did was right.
Now, do you think the media would have flipped out as much as they did if Ted Cruz was a Democratic senator rather than a Republican senator? If Ted Cruz was not a Trump supporter but somebody who opposed Trump, do you think the media coverage would be a little different?
Well, I've always said to you, Howie, that media is very, very biased, and media should be neutral. They should be, if you're going to be hard on one, you should be hard on all.
Right.
Like that's my philosophy. And just because he's a Republican, that doesn't mean anything to me. And I know that doesn't mean anything to you. And yes, he had a very bad. Yeah, I mean, the media painted him extremely bad. If he would have been a Democrat, if the media was going to do this as Cruz being a Republican, then they should do the same thing if he was a Democrat. And it's the same thing. If any Democratic,
we've seen Democrats do stuff that violated COVID regulations and get a light sentence from the media.
Well, that's
wrong. It's wrong.
That's not right. That is absolutely wrong, and I agree with you. And I've always said it, Howie. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. That media has to be fair on both sides, and they have to be right in the middle and let people make their own decision. It's not for them to be harder because a person is a Republican or harder because the person's Donald Trump, and easier if it's a question of Joe Biden or if Cruz was a Democratic senator.
I mean, I'm looking at the case of, okay, let's take another case, another example of a case where a Democrat did something, and then, if a Republican would have done the same thing, it would have been much bigger news. Right now, it's not such big news. The Andrew Cuomo case, where Andrew Cuomo, months and months and months ago, I remember when he did it, it was maybe a year ago, he ordered old age homes in New York he's the governor of New York, he ordered old age homes in New York to accept COVID patients. In fact, he told them they can't reject COVID patients, people who tested positive for COVID. So thousands of people who tested positive from COVID ended up in old age homes infecting other people and could have killed up to 100,000 people, right? Mm-hmm. Now, when you look at that, and you look at the coverage that's getting on American press, but because he's a Democratic governor, it's getting almost no coverage at all. I mean, very, very little traction on that story. And we're talking about 100,000 deaths, maybe even more. And you take a look at Ted Cruz flying for 6 hours to Cuba and then flying home immediately after. The balance of importance of story seems to me, as a guy who's been in news for a long, long time, the balance of importance between Ted Cruz flying to Cuba with his daughters and then flying home, or even staying the weekend. Let's say he lived out his plan and he stayed the weekend and then flew home on Monday, compared to Cuomo ordering nursing homes to take in COVID patients and then people dying from it. The importance of the story seems to lean more towards Cuomo than towards Cruz, but the media is covering Cruz, wall to wall. So this kind of partisan politics playing out in the media in the States, and by extension Canada, because Canada does the same thing. With Canadian politicians, we do the exact same thing. I mean, Pierre Arcan from the Liberals did not get as much slapping as he should have gotten for traveling. He kept his job, right? And he traveled during COVID too. So, I mean, why did he keep his job? but the guy in Ontario didn't keep his job. So I'm sorry, Cruz flew to Mexico, not to Cuba. Sorry, I said Cuba, I meant
Right.
Mexico.
Yeah.
My apologies to the Cubans. I didn't mean to call you Mexicans. And my apology to the Mexicans. I didn't mean to call you Cubans. I made a mistake.
Okay.
It was a slip of tongue.
Yeah, and especially the U.S. going to Cuba, so U.S.
Yeah.
senator going to Cuba.
Yeah, that
I
would have been
don't think so.
would have been a little different than going to Mexico. I apologize.
Yeah, that would have gotten coverage, all right.
Well, that should have gotten coverage. Then the coverage would have been justified.
Yes.
All right, it was a slip of the tongue. It was a mistake. I'm sorry, because
See.
the Canadian guy, I think the Canadian guy went to Cuba, and the American guy went to Mexico. So I mean, that's where it was to mix up. But anyway, let's move
Well,
on.
I think also Pierre O'Connor, I think, went to Barbados or something.
Yeah, he went
like that.
he went somewhere in the Caribbean. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the idea is that he wasn't thrown out of office. The guy
he should have been.
the guy in Ontario was thrown out of office.
Yeah.
So Gavin Newsom is still governor, and he locked down his entire state and then went and had a birthday party in the state next door, the same night that he locked down his state. So I mean, this double standard, this triple standard, really bothers me, Sheldon.
Yeah, it bothers me too, because I also think at the same time that no matter if you're a Democrat, Republican, Liberal, NDP, or Conservative, as far as I'm concerned, if they're trying to put the example, because it's like they're saying there's two different classes. There's the politicians and there are the citizens. And I'm sorry, but the politicians work for us.
Well, it's the classic case.
Politician.
It's the classic case of do as I say, don't do as I do.
Exactly. And I think that if that's the case, plus in addition, Howie,
Yeah.
regardless, they're under the public spotlight. They're always under public at all times. And yes, the media is totally unfair because they have to do both sides evenly. I've said it so many times to you, and I've said it so many times on this radio show, that no matter what, if the politicians do something wrong, right, left, center, whatever, then they should be scrutinized to the fullest extent by the media equally. Okay, you've heard me say that. So I'm not because Ted Cruz is a Republican that he should have gotten this, because if he was a Democrat, I'd say the same thing. And anybody that's a Democrat, anybody that's an NDP, anybody that's socialist, whatever, doesn't make a difference to me. If in fact they did something wrong like this, number one, I think that they should be fired.
Yeah.
Okay, no matter what. And I'm saying no matter what party. So I'm making this very clear. Whether it's Democrat, Republican, NDP, Conservative, or Liberal, I don't care. You do something like this, you're telling people like you and myself who elect these people to come into power in the first place. And then they decide, well, I don't have to worry about me because I'm above everything. I'm above the law. It's like the same thing. If you and I commit a crime, you and I would be in prison or fined like up the yin yang, okay? If a politician does it, he gets a slap on the wrist.
It's true.
So this is what I'm saying. Like, the politicians are citizens
Actually,
too.
it depends on which politician and what party they're part of.
Yeah,
Certain
but again,
politicians certain politicians will get hit a lot harder than other politicians for doing the exact same thing.
But again, I did say they should be treated equally.
I
so
agree.
if they commit the crime, they do the time,
But
or they
they're
pay the
not,
fine.
and that's the problem.
That's always been the problem. Look, you and I have talked about this so many times about the situation in media, that the media is not the commercial media. That is,
Yeah.
they are not covering the way they should be, and it's not the way the media was when you and I first joined.
No,
You and I
definitely
said
not.
this. Now it's all sensationalism and it's all ratings. So if they can get a person like Ted Cruz who's hated anyway, so let's put a little bit more of the salt in the wound, shall we? The man is hated anyway, regardless. He's hated. So
Right.
let's put a little bit more salt and let the media jump on top of him like a cheap suit.
Well, he's either hated or really loved, depending on who you speak to.
Yeah, well, I mean, fellow Republicans are going to love him because
Yeah.
fellow Republicans will. But I'm saying he should be treated like anybody else. Same thing as a Democrat and same thing as anybody else. They have to be treated in the public's eye and the media's eye equally, and that's the way it should be. Obviously, that's not the case because you and I have discussed this many a times, and obviously there's a big flaw in the coverage of of events that should have been covered equally and properly. Getting back to the situation in Texas,
Yeah.
it's like I said, it's like what happened in Quebec, that there's I think two or three main power grids that cover most of the United States. Now, when the Northeast had this big power outage going back in the late 80s, early 90s, that's exactly what happened there, that the other power grids failed, but Hydro-Quebec thankfully didn't. So 99.99%, if not 100% of the people in Montreal and Quebec were spared, while most of the other places were knocked out of power for God knows how long. It could have been hours, days, I don't know, maybe some as much as a few days. Now, I remember the ice storm. The ice storm played havoc to so many things, including this place that you and I used to work at, CJD, knocked out the transmitter.
Right.
It was an unprecedented weather-related event. Now, obviously, you could see that because Texas is just not. Look, I remember when Toronto got hit with a snowstorm, they had to call in the freaking army.
It's true.
So
not that long ago, maybe a decade ago.
Yeah, so they had to call, and so they were made fun of, and whatever the case is. But here's a state that's not used to having snow. They have palm trees, and they have Galveston's on the Gulf of Mexico. But obviously,
that's also irrelevant to the fact that the renewable energy part of their grid failed.
Yeah,
it wasn't designed properly for inclemental weather. Now, this might have been a freak storm. It could only happen once every 100 years in Texas that they get this kind of snow.
Who knows? This could happen a little bit more often. Climate change again.
But when you build these systems, you're supposed to build them to withstand whatever gets thrown at them.
Yeah.
And so
I guess when they built them, Howie, at that time, I don't know how many years ago, they never thought that they were going to get this kind of weather.
Right.
And the thing is, I guess this is really going to teach them that they're really going to have to beef up their grid, and plus they have to get their backup stuff backed up, like 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 different backups. So if one fails, another one could still do it. But
yeah, you need redundant systems for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So they have to keep doing this, and this is really it always takes a situation whereby.
Well, nobody gets an alarm system until they get robbed, right?
Exactly. There you go. You just answered my. So that's exactly what happens. That's how people learn, and it's a hell of a way to learn.
Yeah.
But and yes, I'm for renewable energy, but obviously this was a major failure, of epic proportions, and also I think we also have to be taught a lesson too. But we don't have to worry about it, but Texas does, and the rest of North America, that's part of those 3 big, huge power grids, that we can't put all major cities on 3 power grids. You can't. You're talking millions of people, 3/4 of the population of the United States of America. And then you got Texas, that their own power grid failed, and the windmills and the solar energy thing, they failed. So obviously they're going to have to take a big, hard look. And if they're going to sell people on renewable energy, what do you think? What do you think is going to be one of the first questions they're going to ask? Well, look what happened, in the month of February when you had a massive power failure,
right? And
your renewal, so they obviously going to have to really beef up everything. They're going to have to put. I don't know what. I'm not an engineer. I don't pretend to play one on the radio, but they're obviously going to have to do something that if something like this happens again, and it's a distinct possibility, especially with a possibility climate change, that you're going to have to be prepared for this next wave, another storm or something, because you never know.
You're listening to the Howie Silbiger Show right here on the True Talk Radio Network. Feel free to call in 1-877-669-1292. I'm Howie Silbiger. He is Sheldon Eric Freed. And we're talking about a whole lot of stuff, but feel free to call in, join the conversation. 1-877-669-1292. Sheldon, we have a problem in Canada with getting vaccines. Our government failed in their ordering process, and they ordered the vaccines for too late of a date. I mean, they ordered enough vaccines, but they just ordered delivery dates way too late. And we see that the rest of the world. I mean, Israel has almost 80% of their population that's vaccinated already. The United States is doing about 1.5 million vaccines a day. And we haven't even done 1 million vaccines in all of Canada in 3 months. I'm wondering, do you think that that the majority of the Canadian population will be vaccinated by the summertime? Because until we're vaccinated, they're not going to let up on all these restrictions, all these COVID laws aren't going to ease up until the vast majority of Canadians are vaccinated. Do you think we're going to see vaccinations by summertime, or do you think we're going to have to wait till September, October, maybe November, December of next year until we see stuff?
I think again, my own opinion. Hope I'm wrong, but I think it's going to be till the fall, to the early to late fall. I think I would have to say probably by the end of the year, and that depends on a lot of things. First of all, when we're getting the vaccines now, because I know they've been ramping up, and there's been a tremendous increase now by what I'm hearing. And I think the thing is too, when you're dealing with a little player like Canada exposing to the United States, which again can manufacture their own vaccines in their own country, again, it's always a question when a small country like Canada has to depend on other countries to provide vaccines.
But why? Why do we have to
Well,
depend on other countries? We have right here in Montreal, there is a factory on Royalmount Avenue in Montreal that said that they were ready to spew out. They were equipped and ready to spew out as many vaccines as the government wanted, and the
by
government
the
did
end of the
not.
year.
And the government did not give them the contract. So I mean,
Well, that's well,
you have pharmaceutical companies in Montreal that are capable, and I'm sure there are some in Toronto that are capable of producing the vaccines locally, and they're not because the government doesn't want to give them the contracts. Do you think we're wasting the opportunity and squandering our own resources and putting our own population at risk rather than using the resources we have in our country and getting this vaccine out as quickly as possible?
well, I've always said, I mean, if we have the pharmaceutical capabilities, I mean, I would love if they would be able to get the green light by the government and be able to churn out the vaccines. Because to me, we have to be more independent in a lot of things. I mean, look at even the personal protective equipment, where at one point we were getting it from other countries, including China.
Well, we sent it all to China at the beginning of COVID. Remember?
Yeah, yeah, and now, well, now we're they're manufacturing and they're getting the PPE stuff to the frontline workers, which they definitely need, and they should also give it to, the teachers as well, anybody that comes in constant contact with the public or students or whatever. And I've always believed in that.
Right.
But of course, they should have gotten the. I mean, I don't know what the government was thinking, and even locally in Montreal, there was people that were putting together a possible oral medication
Right.
for this, and they did, as far as I know right now at the time of this broadcast, they have not received any the go ahead from the federal government. Although Trudeau said that they have received their application. So again, if they received the application, what's taking them so long? Why didn't they even say, are they in front of Health Canada? Is it being looked at? Is it being researched? Is the data being fed to Health Canada?
So the question is, Sheldon, does the government really care about the population, this current government? Or are they just there for themselves? That's the big question. Because
Well,
because the politicians will be the first ones to get the vaccine, for sure.
of course.
And then the rest of the population is going to have to wait till December, January to get a vaccine. So
Well,
is
I've
that
always
really
believed.
is that really what the Canadian government feels and feels for their population? And if that's the case, why are they still the government?
Well, exactly, and I would say that way to anybody, and I would say, the politicians are only interested in the politicians. I've always said that's why the politics just really leaves me a bad taste in my mouth, because when it comes down to it, just about every government has lacked transparency to the point that when you and I really wanted to find out the hard answers and ask the hard questions that journalists and responsible media outlets are supposed to do, how much is the government really hiding? I mean,
That's a
this
good
is
question. It's an excellent question.
now here's a perfect example what you said, and you put it so eloquently. When you were saying that we have so many like big pharmaceutical companies on Marcel Laurent Boulevard, there's a huge pharmaceutical company there. There's big pharma in this province, in this area, and they would have the manufacturing capabilities or even if they were able to retool it, they would be able to have things in place, procedures in place to be able to manufacture these vaccines. Again, it comes to the same question again. Why do we always have to depend on every other country? Why can't we do it ourselves? You get Israel, that's a quarter of the population of Canada. What's the population of Israel? About 10 million people?
Yeah, maybe under 10 for sure.
Okay, so you got a country, like you said, they've already vaccinated over 80% of their population.
Yeah, they're already vaccinating children there. They've done most of the adults. They're not.
So probably by the summer or late spring, just about everybody that wants the vaccine is going to have it.
Right.
So they're smaller than Canada. So my question again goes, yes, I'm very happy for the people of Israel that
how many people live in Canada? What, 40 million people in Canada?
A little less, I think about 30. But even that, like, we're still bigger than Israel.
Yeah.
And I mean, okay, we're not like the United States, which is what, 400 million people.
But think about it. The United States is vaccinating 1 million people, 1.5 million people a day in 1 month. In 1 month, if we had that many vaccines in 1 month, we could vaccinate the entire country.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing was, and then there was when there was the big rollout, and then all of a sudden, Pfizer decided to retool their production facilities, and we started getting all this. And just when people were getting, and then they were saying, okay, we're going to get the first shot, then the second shot in 3 weeks. At least there was one bit of encouraging news that came out of Israel, that they said that the first shot in Pfizer is over 80% effective.
Right.
So what I'm thinking is going to happen, and again, it's just my opinion, that I think whatever the rollout is happening now, regardless of like how many vaccines are coming into this country every day, every week, I think what they're going to do, and I think a lot of the provinces are going to do, instead of giving the second shot for people who had the first, they're going to try to inoculate as many people as they can on the first shot. So to try to wrap up of the slowdown, so maybe that way the government will find an excuse to say, well, most of the people are now getting inoculated, but they're not saying that they're getting the second shot. It's only the first shot.
Right.
So the thing is, if the first shot is, and again, it's all ifs. It's all ifs. So we could question till the cows come home. And
it's always all ifs.
Yeah, it's always all ifs. So my thing is, if we get the first shot, is that going to be enough that we may not need the second shot? Will it be enough against the variant? Will it be enough against this the original strain of the COVID virus?
Look, the truth of the matter is, Shelton, that we can't be living in hiding for the rest of our lives.
No, we have to get back to normal.
We can't keep society locked down the way they've been locked down, and we can't keep the economy closed the way it's been closed. If we want an economy at all, if we want a country at all, we have to start reopening stuff and letting people get back to work and back to business.
I'll give you a perfect example. Here's a perfect example I can give you. It may sound like very naive. I took a walk yesterday. It was a beautiful day yesterday, mild day yesterday in my area. Go outside. It's like -3. Okay. For us, it's mild. Okay. For people that are listening.
Very,
outside.
very mild. -3.
Yeah. -3. It's like maybe,
it's only 3 degrees under freezing. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So I went out yesterday. Beautiful mild day, hardly a wind chill or whatever.
Yeah.
And I see people walking and they're in fantastic moods. Like I could see people happy. I see people I hear people talking on the phone. They're happy. Right. And it's like usually a walk, people wouldn't think twice about it. Would be like second nature to us. You know, we go here, we go there, whatever. We walk to the metro, walk to the bus, walk to our cars, whatever the case is. We wouldn't think anything, you know?
Yeah.
But people are now, because it was a mild day yesterday, people were happy. And then when it's cold, people stay in because they're scared to go out. Plus, we have the curfew locally. So the thing is,
what do you mean luckily? What do you mean luckily?
I'm saying that sarcastically.
Oh, okay,
luckily.
Good. Luckily,
yeah. Luckily.
Yeah, I feel so privileged to be in a quarantine, to be in a lockdown and under house arrest.
Yeah.
That's such privilege to be under house arrest.
Even Ontario now has the double cases than Quebec does. They never had the curfew.
No, because they don't believe in arresting people for no reason, right? I didn't commit any crime. I don't have to be arrested. I'm a responsible adult, a responsible human being, and being a responsible human being means that I am responsible for my own health. So if you tell me that it's dangerous for me to go and hang out with Sheldon Eric Fried in his house, and it's dangerous for me and Sheldon to go out for lunch together, I will listen to you because I am not the expert. You are the expert. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Doctors are the experts, and if doctors tell me that in order to ensure that you are healthy, don't go hang out with Sheldon Eric Fried. Don't go out to dinner with Sheldon Eric Fried. Stay away from Sheldon as much as possible until both of you get vaccinated and have antibodies to fight the disease. I will stay away from Sheldon. I haven't seen Sheldon in over a year, like face to face. We see each other. We see each other connecting like this. We were on the air together, but we haven't met face to face. We used to meet all the time. We used to go out all the time, but we don't meet face to face anymore because we are responsible human beings.
I mean, here's the thing too. I haven't seen my mother. I haven't seen my mother since September. I haven't seen my kids since last August.
Right.
And my kids live within about a 10-minute drive from here.
But what I'm saying is we're responsible human beings. I don't need the government coming to me and telling me, hey, buddy, I know you're a responsible human being. You're an adult. You're 40, you're 60-odd years old. You are. You're 40-odd years old. I am. See what I did there? And
I heard, I saw.
And I don't need the government coming and saying, you're old enough. You're old enough to be. You're old enough to take care of yourself. You're old enough to vote. You're old enough to go to war. You're old enough to go and kill people. But I have to tell you, you have to go to bed at 8 o'clock at night because I can't trust you to be out on the street at 8 o'clock at night. Come on.
Thankfully, again, I'm saying this sarcastically. They're not having a policeman that's in your apartment or in your place telling you to go to bed at 8 o'clock and watching your.
That's the next step, Sheldon. That's the next step.
I mean, here's the thing. We have to also look at a couple of things too.
Yeah.
And I was never for the curfew, so I want to reiterate. I want to make it real clear.
You like the curfew. You're antisocial to start.
Come on. But like, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, we locally, our cases have been going down, but at the same time as I'm saying that, we're now going to be heading into the March break, which when we were called last year, that's when things started on the March break. That there was because Quebec has the earlier March break compared to the other provinces across the country. So that's why Quebec got it first, because people were coming in from the Caribbean unknown to them that they might have carried the virus.
How about now that we know it's a year later, we've been all suffering through this for a year already. Mm-hmm. A year later, everybody's quite aware that this disease exists and how it spreads. I mean, we're all pretty much aware on what we have to do in order to stop this disease and to at least curb the spread of it. How about we allow people to be responsible? We say, I trust our population to be responsible. Now, we know that there is a segment of the population that won't be responsible, and that segment of the population should be fined the hell out of.
Absolutely.
Give them tremendous fines, put them in these quarantine hotels or wherever the heck you want to put them, right? Punish them greatly for breaking the COVID rules.
Yeah.
But the rest of us should be able to live our free lives. Look, if we're responsible and we're social distancing, we're washing our hands, we're wearing our masks, we're doing everything the way we're supposed to be doing it, why are we being punished? Why are we under house arrest? Because there's 5% of the population that's not listening, or 10% of the population. The 10% of the population that's not listening, like every other crime, should be treated like the criminals they are.
Well, yeah, that's what I've always said. And the thing is, we have to also, besides being responsible, if we break the law, we have to take responsibility for the breaking of the law.
Right.
And the thing is that, like you said, there are a fair amount of people that have had these unmasked parties and being in thousands of people or whatever the case is. And obviously that is wrong. And obviously they're not helping the situation. And I think it's always the case of people get punished for inactions of a few. It's like when I was a kid in school.
We have 20 million people living in Quebec. 15, 18 million, 20 million people living in Quebec.
Yep.
Right? So 20 million people are under house arrest.
Yep.
Because maybe 7,000 people are breaking the rules, right?
But Howie, that was always the case. It's never right of why you and I should be punished because you and I have obeyed the law to the fullest, and we do not go out past 8 o'clock, and we wash our hands, wear our masks, whatever. It's always the case. I obviously do not agree with it, but it's always the case that that because of an actions of a few, we all have to be punished. Is that right? Of course, it's not right. It's never right. Like, so it's the same thing. Well, some people were saying, well, I'm getting punished anyway. I might as well just commit the crime, and I don't care type of thing.
That's
but
what my grade 7 students say that to me all the time.
Yeah.
They're saying, well,
and the thing is,
if you're going to punish me, then I might as well just do something to be punished for, right?
Yeah, but again,
but that's a 12-year-old. I'm not 12 years old, Sheldon.
Yeah, I know you're not 12 years old. I'm not 12 years old. But the thing is, that's what people think. And the thing is, it's like, it's not right. And the thing is, the people that are obeying the laws shouldn't be punished.
But we are. And we're taking it. And we're accepting it. And that's really what bothers me more than anything else, is that there's been no massive movement to fight against this, to argue against this. And the only movement that has been around to argue against this are the whack jobs who say that, that all the social distancing and all the measures that were taken are infringement of our rights. That's not the way to argue this.
Mm-hmm.
The way to argue this is we should be punishing the guilty. We should not be punishing the innocent. Simple as that. We should be quarantining the people who are most at risk of getting sick, and everybody else should be allowed to continue their daily lives with whatever COVID measures you want to put into place. You want me to wear a mask? I'll wear a mask. But let me go to work. You want me to wear a mask? Want me to stay away from other people, 6 feet away, 8 feet away, whatever? I'll do it. Let me go shopping. Let me buy what I want to buy. Let me live my life. Let me go to the ski hill. Let me go to a restaurant. If they could set it up that I could be 6 feet away from somebody else. What's the difference if I'm 6 feet away from somebody at a restaurant or I'm 6 feet away from a student at the school? How does that change anything? And why are teachers so special that we could be standing in front of 500 students a day and that's okay? But I can't go into a store with more than 3 people. It is so ridiculous. If any of these rules made sense, maybe I'd be more inclined to think that that it was some logic behind it. But they just seem to be a hashtag, fly by the seat of our pants. We're sending out rules by the seat of our pants rather than thinking them out because, we can and people are going to listen to us. And that's what bothers me more than anything else in this whole thing, Sheldon.
Yeah, and the thing is, and it seems like all other provinces, all other states were doing the same thing.
Yeah, everyone's flying by the seat of their pants. Some people that were going
up. How come they never got the curfew? Why did we get a curfew?
Because that's what our government decided to do to us.
Because
they did it in Belgium or they did it in France, and that's where they're taking their lead from.
Yeah, but the thing is, do you think that there's going to be a spike after the March break, or you think it's going to go down?
So
do you think there was any positive?
Let me ask you this, Sheldon. Let me ask you this. Last year, around this time of year, the government shut everything down for what? 2 months? A month and a half, 2 months, 2.5 months, somewhere in that area, 8 weeks, 9 weeks, everything was shut down.
Well, they shut the schools for the
duration of the year.
For the direction of the year. Yeah.
But they shut down businesses. Everyone was sitting at home for months and months and months, right?
Mm-hmm.
We weren't interacting. Everybody was ordering their groceries by telephone or by internet. We were not interacting with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Did COVID disappear? Did COVID vanish? Nobody was going to work. Nobody was going to the movies. Nobody was going to shopping malls. Nobody was going to play soccer or play baseball or play anything. Nobody was hanging out in each other's homes. Everybody was sitting at home and quarantining at home, and in a forced lockdown. And COVID still maintained itself. COVID never went away. So does that not prove that quarantines may not work? Because if you take a look around the world, the entire world shut down the same months we shut down. The entire world shut down. And then when it reopened, COVID was still there and came back with a vengeance. So I'm wondering, and this, just open head wondering, right? Because I do that. Does this not prove to a certain extent that lockdowns don't work? That this separation of humans don't work? Maybe the separation works, but the lockdowns don't work? because
Well, I
COVID
don't
was still
agree that the
there.
lockdowns worked. Yeah, especially the curfew. I never agreed that that worked.
Because COVID's still there. It's not
Yeah.
like it went away. Theoretically speaking, after being locked down for 3 months, everybody in their home for 3 months, the only people out on the streets were the grocery store workers and doctors. Those are the only people traveling around, people delivering food or taking care of people who are sick. And yet COVID still maintains itself. We still have 700, 800, 900,000 cases a day. So that means that the lockdown didn't work. The COVID should have disappeared.
You know, this whole thing scared so many people to the point that when I went to that park to have that thing for Mad TV,
Yeah.
I took the bus and the metro down. First time I was in a bus since last March. And I never saw a bus, practically 6 people in an entire bus. The bus driver was in this plastic cubicle and everybody was equidistant apart. Yes, the people on the bus were wearing masks.
Right.
I went on the metro I got on the metro station not far from where I live. I had the car to myself to Lionel Grew.
Wow.
I was alone in a metro car in the day. In the day, I had the car, and even when a couple of people got on Lionel Grew, there was 4 people, count them 4, in a metro car in the entire metro car in my car.
Wow.
And where I was, 4 people in the metro. When I came back, the same thing. It's like it was a ghost town. The metro stations was a ghost town. The bus was the bus stop. Everything was a ghost town. It scared. I mean, let's face it. The public transportation locally, they're down between 80 to 90%.
Makes sense.
I think now it's a little less because now some more companies opened up, so now some more people are going. But when I went, no, there was still 90 to 95% of the companies were shut down.
Well, look, the government has been scaring people for over a year. The media has been scaring people for over a year, and people believe it. You know, I saw people. I spoke to people I know. Shelton, do you wear a double mask? Are you wearing a double mask when you go out?
No.
Okay, so I saw people wearing double masks months ago before it became fashionable. I saw people wearing double masks, and I asked them, even before Fauci came out with this stupidity that double masks are safer than single masks, I don't know. So I asked him, why are you wearing a double mask? For my mental health, I feel healthier this way. What do you mean you feel healthier this way?
Mental health?
For my mental health, I'm wearing a double mask. And I'm like, what? It doesn't even make sense. It's not even logical. And yet people are doing things that aren't logical because they're scared. And if anything seems like it's like the placebo effect.
Yeah.
It feels like I'm doing something, therefore I'm doing something.
Yeah.
So I put on a double mask. Double masks have to be safer than single masks. I mean, it's a double mask, right? Even though all the science points to even a single mask doesn't do much, a double mask definitely doesn't do much because it's the same pores that, I mean, it's the same mask.
I mean, I go outside. I put the mask underneath, and I put the scarf over it and everything, like to protect my neck and whatever. But I don't wear a secondary mask. No.
Yeah, I don't either, and I don't see any reason to. But the CDC is now recommending double masks, and so you have to wonder, after they finish recommending double masks, they're going to recommend triple masks, 5 masks at a time. Maybe we should wear a bubble over our heads.
Great for business, isn't it?
Oh, amazing!
There's your capitalism right there.
Maybe next they'll be recommending hazmat suits with oxygen tanks. We can walk around with big orange suits, with those big hoods on and the big orange suits.
Did you and I, in our lifetime, ever imagine there would ever be a curfew in this area? No.
So
who knows what the hazmat suits and oxygen tanks? Who knows?
Last time I had a curfew, I was 15 years old, right? The curfew the curfew is not even clear what you're allowed and not allowed to do. So, I live in a house. If I have to take out the garbage, let's say tonight's garbage night, and I'm on the air till 8:30, 9 o'clock, and then I have to take the garbage out. Am I allowed going out to take the garbage out after 8 o'clock? Right? So that's one of the questions. Or is COVID waiting on the corner to come and attack me the second I walk out of my door?
I suppose you take a look out the window and see if there's any police, and then you could okay, coast is clear. Put the garbage out, race back in the house.
Do I have to run? Do I have to jog with my garbage in order to take the garbage
exactly.
out?
Yeah, or put the roller skates on.
That's right. Or do I need a catapult to kind of launch it from my house to the curb, so that so the garbage man can pick it up. Because to take it out in the morning means I have to get up at like 5 in the morning because they come at 6. So I mean, so do I have to launch it by catapult? Could I walk it to the corner? I'm not sure how that works, Sheldon.
Hmm.
Are you aware of what the protocol is? Because I'm not sure how that works.
Well, thankfully, I live in an apartment building that I could just toss it down the chute, so I don't have to worry about going. So I don't have to worry. So I could, yes, just go outside my apartment building, but yes, I put on my mask as soon as I get out of my apartment, and I go down. I throw which is on the same floor as where I live, the recycling, the garbage, down the chute, done.
Don't
I
have to
don't
worry
have to
about
worry.
it.
I don't have to worry about that.
1-877-669-1292 is the number to call. 1-877-669-1292. This is the Howie Silbiger Show. I'm Howie Silbiger. He's Sheldon Eric Freed. And we are live, which means you could call in. Once again, numbers 1-877-669-1292. Support independent radio in Montreal. Please support independent radio in Montreal. Go to GoFundMe.com and support independent radio in Montreal. I mean, just look up support independent radio in Montreal, and there we are. Unfortunately, the GoFundMe link is very long to read. So,
Aren't they always these links?
it's like crazy. So it's GoFundMe.com/F/help-fund-independent-radio-in-Montreal. So they can't make anything easy these days, right? So everything has to be so complicated. So anyway,
Just click on the link; it'll bring you there.
that's right. Click on the link; it'll bring you there. Support independent radio in Montreal. Give a donation, and let's help launch a Montreal English radio station that's going to give the power to the talent. That's going to be.
This is what the community needs, though. This is independent radio, which hasn't been done in such a long time. Next to your radio show, because you were the first one. When did you say True Talk on the internet? It was one of the oldest.
2004.
Yeah. So I mean, look, you were able to launch it, a successful launch. Still doing it now at 2021, 17 years later.
Yeah, we're still here.
So we're still here. So you could be here. You could be among us. I'm blessed with a musical show now on this platform. Other people could have. Dino eventually is going to come on to our radio station.
Yeah, well, Dino Mazzoni, he's going to be doing a show, an interview show.
Called Sidebar.
It's going to be exciting. It's called Sidebar. It's going to air here on the station. I'm not sure what days and what time. We're going to get to that a little later, probably in the next couple of weeks. We'll lock down a date and a time for it and a launch date for it. But it's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to it. It should be fun.
Yeah, he's an intelligent, wonderful, warm guy that makes everybody treats everybody fairly and like a human being, and a wonderful, wonderful person, and a dear friend to both of us. And I wish him all the best. Dino, if you're listening, I wish you all the best once you launch.
And he's excited about doing this. He already has some pretty good guests lined up. I'm not allowed to share with you who he has in mind.
Oh boy, okay.
But the names I'm hearing and the guests I'm hearing tells me that you will want to listen to this show.
In other words, you will not be disappointed.
Absolutely not going to be disappointed. Yeah. We'll keep you updated as time progresses and as we get close to the launch date. We'll let you know. Dino will be on the show with us, and we'll talk to him about it, and we'll let you know as that happens. So stay tuned, and we'll keep you posted. Sheldon Eric Freed is here with me. What'd you say?
I thought you were going to say we're out of time.
No.
Yeah, because I know when you always say Sheldon Eric Freed, we're out of time.
No, we're not out of time.
Okay. All right. So we have time. Okay.
Do you want us to be out of time?
Never.
Would you like this show to expire now?
No, I love this show.
I don't think we should expire right now.
I've been on it since going almost 8 years already on this show.
Oh my gosh, it's been 8 years already?
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to just tell people
time really
also
flies.
From my standpoint, and I for people that are, let's say, new to, let's say, my Inside the Vault show, that you've asked me for the past, I don't know how many years, to ask me to come on to do a music show. And I've been with you, like I said, 8 years. First at Radio Shalom, now online, and we were doing also. Hopefully, we'll do it this summer, God willing, please, to cover the Just for Laughs show. And so I've been involved in like 8 years. And I basically, when I did the music show, I basically said I'm coming back home again.
Yeah, well, you've always been welcome here, and I've always had a slot for you.
Thank you.
And I can't believe it's been 8 years already.
Yeah, it's going to be. I think it's going to be. I was in October of 2013. So yeah, in by the fall of this year, October will be 8 years. So it's going on my 8th year now at True Talk.
I started the Howie Silbiger show in 2001.
Wow.
So that's when I started the Howie Silbiger show, just after 9/11 in 2001.
Oh, after 9/11. Okay.
Yeah, just after 9/11, I was interviewing counterterrorism experts. We were talking about terrorism in North America, and the show was an hour, and it ran twice, 3 times a week. I mean, I had been doing radio before that, but this format of the Howie Silbiger show, where I talk to people and I interview people and we talk about news and whatever else, that started in about 2001. That started just in September 2001, and I could say that I've been on the air almost nearly every week. I mean, there have been a few weeks that I've missed over the course of 19 years.
Also because of the Jewish holidays and
there's been a few weeks that I've missed, but I'd say we've been on the air pretty much almost. You know, I remember about 7 years ago. How long have you been on? 7 years? 8 years?
I'm going on my 8th year now.
So maybe it was 9 years ago we celebrated our 3,000th episode.
Oh, wow.
About 9 years ago. And then I stopped counting after that, so I have no idea how many we've done since then. But 9 years ago, we were at 3,000.
And as Maxwell Smart Don Adams would put it, and loving it.
Oh, yeah. So we've done a lot of shows. We've interviewed a lot of people, especially a lot of high-profile people, and we've been on AM radio, we've been on the internet, we've been bounced around from platform to platform. Most recently, we're on YouTube and Facebook and TrueTalkRadio.com, the live stream, and the podcast. So you could get the podcast if you miss any part of the show. You can subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcasting service. Or you could just tell Alexa or Google Home, hey, play the Howie Silbiger show, and they'll play it for you. Just like that.
And also download the app free of charge, either on Google Play or on the App Store.
Yeah, the True Talk Radio app. It's available on Google Play or on the App Store, yeah. But
so take us along wherever you go.
But what I thought was really cool is you could just say, hey, Google, play the Howie Silbiger show, and it does. And my phone just started playing it.
I didn't say it on mine because I know what's going to happen.
Oh, that's really funny.
Look, it did happen one time when we were on the air with you, me, and Mark David, and it was repeating everything we were saying all the way. And it was like I kept hearing you were saying something, I was saying something, and I could hear something 3 seconds later. I was saying, what are you putting us on a delay? Did it stop? Tell it to stop.
Yeah, so I just stopped it. But it started playing the Howie Silbiger show, so I know the Google Play works. When I say that term that turns on the Google phone and say play the Howie Silbiger show, it does. And I know when you say, hey, Alexa, play the Howie Silbiger show, the Howie Silbiger show starts.
Don't say G, okay?
No, I'm not going to say it again. Because,
okay, don't say the G word.
Because my phone...
Sometimes people say, don't say the F word, don't say the S word, but don't say the G word. And don't say the S word is the Apple equivalent.
At least I know it works, okay?
Yeah, it works. It works all right.
So if you have one of those smart home devices that play stuff for you, it's not hard to find the Howie Silbiger show. It's also not hard to find True Talk Radio. Just tell it to play True Talk Radio. But be careful because sometimes it'll play True Talk Portland, which apparently is some talk radio station in Portland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you got to be careful which one you're listening to.
Okay. But don't say the G word when we're on the air. doing this.
I'm telling you, the phone came on. I mean, that's funny. Uh,
Well, this is adding to the strange week you already have.
I'm telling you, the week never ends. The strangeness never ends. You
And it
know,
always happens near the end of the show, huh?
I find very disconcerting actually the fact that right now, and people are gonna say you're a crybaby, but say whatever you want. I find it very disconcerting that uh, for the last little while, let's say the last year or two or three or four, um, Sheldon's looking at me already like, what are you saying?
I'm waiting.
The last few years, anytime I post anything on Facebook or on well, I don't use Twitter anymore, but anytime I post anything on Facebook, I get immediately attacked by left wing people, and I find it very disconcerting because you can't have a regular political conversation anymore. It's now
I,
they
I
come
find
after you to
Facebook
destroy.
is really, yeah,
They
I
come
find
after you
that's
to
a lot of
destroy you.
things.
It's
Yeah.
it's not that they come to argue the point and to say you're wrong and I disagree with you and this is the reasons I disagree with you, or take a look at this fact or take a look at that fact. Their intention is not to engage you in conversation, and
It's
maybe
personal attacks.
it's attack, and kill, 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 and that's all they're after is just to kill, and
Yeah.
and I find it very, 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 very upsetting. Not because I care very much about what people on Facebook think about me, I really don't, and not because I care much about what anyone thinks of me, I never did, but but I find it disconcerting because I used to like having general political conversations. I used to enjoy them, and you can't have a good political
Yeah.
conversation anymore.
I can't anymore. And actually, I started straying away, but there were a few things that really got my goat the past couple of weeks. But for the most part, people agreed with me. But at the same time, I don't even want to do it anymore because I remembered, I think I told you about it a couple of months ago. I was really attacked personally.
Yeah,
And I didn't care either what people thought about me, but I said, you know what? I always said if people want to disagree with me, it's the same thing like you would say. If people want to disagree with you, fine. But do it in a respectful way. But if you right away go for character assassination or personal attacks, already that's over the line. Maybe your character, the way you're upbringing, your family, your spouse, whatever the case is, that's really hitting below the belt. And that has nothing to do with the point at hand. So, like, I would say to people, if you want to disagree with me, I have no issue with that. Everybody, we live in a democracy that people could debate respectfully and with dignity. And the fact is, you listen to me, I listen to you. That's the way it should be. But it's like even with politics and everything else, that's what leaves me with a bad taste in my stomach. Instead of debating and then shaking, like, look, you and I have had many debates, but you and I have always respected each other.
yeah, we don't agree politically at all, but
But we respect each other.
yeah,
And the thing, people like, let's say on Facebook or whatever, a lot of these social media things, it's like, never mind they disagree with what you're saying, regardless if they think they're right or whatever the case is, they think that they're right and they feel that you're out to lunch. But the way they do it, the way they disagree with you, it's not like, well, this is why I'm saying what I'm saying because of this, and that. And like I always said, I'm not always saying I'm right. I'm, obviously not. You don't always believe you're right. But the thing is, the thing is with the debate too is you get to learn certain things that maybe might have passed over your head. Maybe you didn't think about. I mean, we're human beings.
right.
So sometimes you'll say something and I'll say, you have a point. You have a really good point. And I respect you for that point because knowledge is something that people have a thirst, that you and I have a thirst for. It's about learning. And this is one thing about we're blessed in this business, that we learn from each other. We learn from other people that are our guests or people that call in. That's what it's all about. It's all about learning and education and being more in tune of what's going on. You and I don't have all the answers, and people all over the world don't have all the
Sheldon,
answers.
I don't even have half the answers.
Yeah, but the thing is, the thing is about shows like this and podcast radio, and this is going to be good for independent radio here in Montreal, or is the fact is that you learn, that you establish your passion and talents, and people learn. And it's all about a big forum of discussion. And that's what it's all about. Respectful dialogue. And that's what this
But
whole
that
thing
doesn't
should be
exist
about,
any.
rather than insulting.
It doesn't exist anymore, Sheldon.
That's the problem. And I think, with independent radio, we'll bring it back
I'm
because,
hoping
again,
so.
it's not
That's the
it,
plan. Because I'm
it's not
really.
under a corporate leader on the ivory towers telling you take this side or you take that side, or Joel or John Smith take this side and Jane Doe take that side. It's about your thoughts, my thoughts, this person's thought, that person's thought. What's really on your mind and what you're thinking. That's what it's all about.
Because I'm really getting tired of constantly being attacked for every minutia, every syllable that I post. So if I post an opinion on something, I'm expressing my opinion. Now, my opinion doesn't really mean much in the overall scheme of anything in the world. Let's be honest. I'm one guy. I have an opinion. Fine, I have 3, 4,000, 5,000 followers on Facebook and other media. That's okay, whatever, right? But it's my opinion. So take it for what it is. It's an opinion. I'm not here to give you facts. I'm not here to deliver news. I never claimed to be a news person. I give you opinion. This is my job. This is what I do. And so I give you opinion. I express an opinion. Now, you have the right to disagree with that opinion. Everybody does. And you have a right to not respect my opinion. That's fine, too. I mean, that's your prerogative. You don't have to respect everything I do. And frankly, I don't care if you do or don't, right? My job is to give the opinion. This is what I do. But when you come and you attack me, and you attack the messenger but not the message, attack the message all you want. That's fine. You want to rip my opinion apart, that's fine. Go ahead. But when you attack the messenger, and you insult the messenger, and you threaten the messenger, and you come after the messenger, that bothers me because I mean, I'm entitled to my opinion the same way you're entitled to your opinion. You don't have a monopoly on truth. You don't have a monopoly on opinions. And if you disagree with my opinion, that's fine too. It's legitimate. We can have a disagreement. We could agree to disagree. Nobody ever agrees to disagree anymore, Sheldon. Now it's crush him, crush him, crush him. And if you can't crush him, try again and crush him. And this is
Well,
what
I've
drives
always
me
said to our
crazy.
listeners too, if you think your opinion or my opinion is out to lunch, whatever, and if you want to investigate it further, well, there's always the internet. There's always reliable sources, reliable internet sources, that is, with a capital R. And and then if you think you've got something, look, we don't know all the facts. We're again, it's stating of our opinions. So you come on with us, and we put a dialogue in. And you
Sheldon,
know what?
I pay for an open line. I pay for open lines on the show. It costs me money every month to have a 1-877 number, so people could call in, because I believe that everyone has the right to express their opinion. If you disagree with me, call in. Let's argue it out. Let's have a conversation. So I open the lines.
Respectful dialogue, respectful.
I open the lines so that people could feel free to call in. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, whatever. But I pay every month for the line so that everyone has the right to call in, right? Everyone has the opportunity. It's not just you sitting at home or wherever you're sitting and listening to my opinion. You could be part of the conversation. And I've told people, I'm sure you've heard me say this a million times in these 7 years you've been on the show, Sheldon, that never believe a word I say. Look it up. Do your own research. I say this all the time because I don't think we should ever believe anything anybody says on television, on radio, or anywhere. Don't believe a word they say. Everything has a slant to it. Everything has an angle to it. Everything has an agenda. Everybody, whether you do it consciously or unconsciously, the way you package something and deliver something is delivered with your personal agenda. And I don't care how journalistic you are, how unjournalistic you are. That's just the nature of human beings.
That's how people that's what the media is now. Like people say it, and now and the problem is a lot of people believe it.
It's not gospel. You could say something, it's not gospel.
Yeah, and as soon as media says something to the people, it's gospel. They believe it. They're drawn into it. They're or if it's a biased media, which is exactly happening right now, they're saying, "Oh, the Republicans this. Let's smash the Republicans." But the Democrats, no, let's treat them with
kid gloves,
with kid gloves. And that's why I always said, that's why media, that's why once upon a time media was there to give the facts and then put the facts out there, and for people like you and myself and other people who listen or read or watch the news on TV, then they make they make up their own opinions, and that's the way it should always. It was like that in the past. Why is it now? Because of one thing: ratings, social media. Actually, two things: ratings and social media.
Social media has been the killer of political talk, has been the killer of discussion, has been the killer of friendships. Social media is really an evil.
I mean, you heard what Facebook did to Australia?
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible evil. Social media is not a good place to be. I know we're broadcasting on social media now, but that's the only way you can get the word out, right? But social media is really a problem. And now the social media companies have admitted, founders of the social media companies have admitted, that they were created to be addictive. So you have an addictive thing that was created to be addictive, and that's shaping the minds of everybody. Yeah. This is where most people get their news from, social media. They don't look at news sites anymore. They don't listen to the radio. They don't watch television. They read social media. So Twitter is where people get their news from. Facebook is where people get their news from. And the stuff that's posted on Twitter and Facebook isn't necessarily as accurate as it should be.
Yeah, I mean the news websites will have their stuff on Twitter, so that's fine if you do that because it's within the news organization, depending if you trust it or not.
Right.
But that's another story for another day.
Sheldon, we're all out of time.
Howie, it's been a pleasure.
See, I didn't do Sheldon Eric Fried well out of time. I just did Sheldon. We're all out of time.
Yeah, but it's the same pitch. That's what. It was the same pitch. That's why. That's why. Yeah.
So I went Sheldon Eric Fried. We're all out of time.
It's been fun. It's always been fun.
It is always fun. I enjoy talking to Sheldon every week.
I enjoy talking to Howie.
And I enjoy talking to you every week, too.
Let's keep our fingers crossed that maybe in the summer, please, we'll be on Just for Laughs. Please.
Now, if that happens, we might have a couple of surprises here on True Talk Radio. I can't get into it right now, but we're working on a couple of really interesting stuff. If the Just for Laughs Festival goes, and if we start independent radio in Montreal, we have a lot of things planned. So,
excellent!
So it should be a lot of fun.
Excellent, Mr. Burns.
All right, that's it. We're all out of time. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Sheldon.
Thank you, Sheldon.
Thank you, Sheldon.
Here we go at the end. Here we go at the end.
Thank you, Sheldon.
You have a lift, do you?
Yes.
It's always at the end. It's never at the beginning. It's never in the middle. It's always at the end.
It's only been 17 years, Sheldon. One day I'll finish off a show properly.
And I'll record that last bit, too.
Sheldon, 17 years ago, my hair was a little less gray.
Probably had more of it like you and I both did.
I had more of it, and it was a little less gray, and I was able to finish off a sentence without flubbing it. So
and for people who don't know, Howie, English is his first language.
Sometimes. You know where I stole that line from, by the way?
No.
I stole that line. That line wasn't my original line. You know where I stole that line from?
Well, I've heard it from many people. Yeah.
I personally stole it from Peter Anthony Holder because he used to say that all the time when he flubbed the line.
Oh, okay.
He used to say it all the time when he flubbed the line, so I stole it from him. So I have to give credit where credit is due. That line came from Peter Anthony Holder, but I've been using it for 17 years. So I mean, that's what it is. But at the end of the day, at the end of the show, I generally flub a line or two. I mean, that happens almost every week. And it's not intentional. I don't do it intentionally. It just kind of happens.
Yes.
It's all Sheldon's fault.
No.
He gets me all nervous at the end of the show.
Why at the end of the show? I thought I would get you nervous for the entire show.
Because he's always edgy. He's always like, I gotta get off. Let's go. Come on. Finish the show. I want to go. And so he gets me all nervous right at the end of the show. He's like, it's that energy that comes right through the screen at me. It comes right through the screen at me, and it drags me, that energy. And I'm like, oh, come on, Sheldon, stop doing that. You make me so nervous. And then I end up flubbing the line, and it's Sheldon's fault.
There goes Howie Silbiger in the Twilight Zone.
Oh, yeah. I will be back on Tuesday.
Are you sure?
I said that 2 weeks ago. I wasn't back for 2 weeks after that, so we'll see.
I'll be back with my music show tomorrow night.
I am scheduled to be back on Tuesday for Political Hitman at midnight on Tuesday. That's
You
Tuesday
sure?
going into Wednesday at midnight. I'm scheduled to be right here in this seat, in this chair, in this studio for
Right here, right there.
for Political Hitman.
Gotcha.
Different background, but same. But I was gonna say the same show, different background, but
Same host, but a different show.
same host, same studio, same
Yes.
equipment,
Yes.
different show, same topics essentially.
You just said the different show.
But it's the
Okay.
same topics essentially. I mean, we pretty much do the same thing. We just call it something else.
Oh, you call it something else, all right? Okay.
So why we call it something else, I still haven't figured out. Because essentially, it's the same show.
How are you
But-
just putting your foot in it more and more?
But I mean, I don't make those calls, right? So I mean, they gave me a show and they called it Political Hitman. I was like, all right, Political Hitman.
Okay.
But I do the same thing I do on this show. So I mean,
Yeah, you named it the Howie Silbiger Show.
I named this show the Howie Silbiger Show.
Yes.
The other show's
But you
Political
didn't.
Hitman.
But you didn't name Political Hitman. Somebody else named Political Hitman.
That's right. It wasn't my choice.
Okay.
I
Okay.
didn't have that
But
choice.
it's the same host as the Howie Silbiger Show.
Yes, it's still Howie Silbiger, and it's in the same studio with the same equipment,
Okay. Gotcha.
and we cover basically the same topics,
Okay. But a different telephone number.
but a different telephone number and a different name.
Okay. But the same host.
Same host, yeah.
Okay.
So you could feel free to tune in. What the heck was that? You can feel free to tune in Tuesday going into Wednesday midnight for Political Hitman, and if you're lucky, if I'm lucky, if we're all lucky, and if the stars are aligned and the Lord wills it, we will do. I might. What?
The stars are aligned. What are you doing? Horoscopes now? What is this? Is this another show that's going on True Talk Radio? Support independent radio. Move over, JoJo Savard. We got Howie.
If the little horse whispers in my ear, we I might come back on Tuesday and do another Howie Silbiger show. But we'll see. I can't guarantee it. It all depends if everything aligns and, the horse and, all the other stuff I said.
If there's the Big Dipper, the Small Dipper.
Yeah, if the Big
or
Dipper
there's
dips
a
into the Small Dipper and pours it
crescent
into the big
moon, a
cup.
half moon. Okay.
That's right. And Saturn's aligned with Venus and Jupiter is aligned with the moon.
With Mars.
What?
With Jupiter is aligned with Mars.
Why-
This is the age of Aquarius.
Oh,
Look up the lyrics.
why?
When Jupiter is aligned with Mars.
That is the age of Aquarius.
That's right.
Yeah, but what?
Never mind.
I'm
let's
just trying to
have-
understand where you're going with this. I'm confused. So Jupiter and Mars.
Look up the age of Aquarius.
Oh, I know the
lyrics.
song. I understand the song.
Okay.
I'm. How that fit into this?
Because it just went into my head, and I just had to get it out of there.
I see. Has the moon hit the seventh
Don't
house?
sing, please. Don't sing. We want to get.
And has
Wanna get-
Jupiter? Oh, he's rushing
Oh
me
my
to get
God,
off the air.
Oh my God, he's singing. Oh my God.
What? I'm not singing.
Don't sing, please. Okay.
We heard you sing on the show once, Sheldon.
Yeah, yeah, it was for the 200 like
Yeah.
on Facebook.
Oh,
How
so
can I forget that?
people can still like us on Facebook, by the way. The page is still there, the Howie Silbiger Show page. And you can join the Howie
Yes.
Silbiger Show group on Facebook where we talk about politics. That's what we do. We talk about politics.
And also, you could also text Howie too. If you're too scared to go on or you're not comfortable going on the air, then you could text Howie.
Text me?
Why not?
Okay. You can send me a message through Facebook for sure.
Yes, I meant to say send you a message through Facebook. Yeah,
Yeah.
because nobody knows your number.
That's
except Ricky. Yeah, Ricky, don't lose that number. But,
Ricky, don't
yeah,
lose that.
you don't.
number.
You don't have to care for anybody else. Just Steely Dan too.
Yeah. All right. So that's it. That's
You-
like That was like a way off left field tangent.
I guess I'm promoting my show with some of the songs I wind up playing.
Tune into Sheldon weeknights at 7 p.m. right here on TrueTalkRadio.com inside the vault, where he plays some of your favorite music from the ancient times.
What from the ancient times? What do you think? I'm playing 1919 burlesque?
No, ancient time. Sheldon, you play 1950s.
Usually I play the 60s, not really the 50s.
Oh, you play the 60s. How many years ago was 1960, Sheldon?
60s, 70s, 80s, some 90s.
How many years ago was 1960, Sheldon?
What do you think classic rock is?
How many years ago was 1960, Sheldon?
Yeah, but that's what you call classic rock. It's
How many years ago was 1960, Sheldon?
Okay. You know the cars at the Orange Julep?
We're in 2021, Sheldon.
They're the old cars. They're called classic cars.
Sheldon, we're in 2021. How many years ago was 1960?
Howie, we're out of time.
Oh, are we?
Yes.
So Sheldon plays music from ancient times. Inside the vault.
So hold on. Howie's on two separate radio shows. One his own show, which he's the host, and one on a different show where the name up for him. Howie, so it's the same studio, same setup.
That's right.
On Tuesday into Wednesday midnight.
Exactly.
It's called Political.
It's called Political Hitman. Yeah. And Sheldon is plays ancient music from the vault.
The stars are aligned in the sky. The stars are aligned in the sky, and the Big Dipper goes by the crescent moon. We will be back next Sunday. Is that what you're referring to?
I don't know.
Mr. Silver?
I'm not even sure anymore. I don't even know what we're talking about anymore. And weeknight, Sheldon plays ancient music from the vault. So he opens the vault and pulls out ancient music to play to you. So tune into Ancient Music from the Vault with Sheldon Eric Fried at 7 p.m. right here on TrueTalkRadio.com.
Oh, that's a great platform. Promoting my show, Ancient Music. Now they're going to get people that are going to be Frank Sinatra lovers, and they're going to be Patsy Cline and all this stuff. Okay.
Don't.
I don't play them.
You don't play that? Well, you know what he plays? I heard it myself. Sheldon Eric.
You heard my show?
Sheldon Eric Fried plays banjo music.
Yeah. I don't play banjo music.
2.5 hours of banjo music.
No, I don't play banjo music. I play the very best of classic progressive AOR rock. That's what I play.
Oh, yeah.
Classic rock.
All to
not oldie rock.
All to the background of banjo music.
So, boy, help me, please.
Steely Dan on the banjo.
Oh, that's not something I want to hear.
Ricky, don't lose the number. You don't want to call nobody else. Send it off in a letter to yourself.
You do realize this is going to be rebroadcasted on YouTube, eh?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
Ricky, don't lose the number.
You may want to cut your losses right here and then. Yeah, good idea.
All right, have a good one, guys. Bye.
Okay, bye.